Hello, traders, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Weekly Outlook series. Let's dive into the market analysis and see what we can expect from the upcoming week. If you watched last week's episode, you'll remember I mentioned that the dollar is bearish, and that's a good thing for anything paired with the USD. And as the dollar fell, we saw exactly what happened with the US stock market and crypto. Both moved higher. We've now had 3 weeks of continuous downward movement, and I expect that swing low to be swept. So overall, I remain bearish on the dollar throughout this week. The daily chart confirms the weekly bias. As you can see, on Friday, the price closed inside an inverted fair value gap, reinforcing my idea of continued downward pressure on the dollar. That's good news for the broader market, so let's move on to the Nasdaq. Not much to say here. It was a bullish week, and price went exactly to resolve 50% of the wick from 3 months ago. If you're unfamiliar, the ICT concept teaches us that wicks are liquidity zones, acting like magnets for price. Statistically, price often resolves at least 50% of a wick, which is exactly what we see here. The weekly time frame gives us a clearer picture. We can see that liquidity was swept and price returned into a weekly fair value gap. That shows buyer weakness and suggests sellers are currently in control. I expect a slight pullback into a nearby volume imbalance, and from there, I anticipate buyers stepping in, as there's plenty of liquidity waiting to be filled. On the daily chart, I'm currently neutral. We saw a bounce last Monday from a daily FVG, but price couldn't hold above and returned to the range. This leans slightly bearish for me, but let's not forget we have news events coming this week, so stay alert. Personally, I'll only take trades after 10 a.m. New York time, and I recommend the same to anyone actively day trading. Again, the daily bias is neutral for now. We'll get more clarity after Monday's open. Last week's 4-hour analysis played out nicely. We reached the weekly objective, but quickly pulled back. That created a balanced price range, which I expect to be retested. My expectation is that price will reject from that BPR and move down toward the swing low to grab liquidity. So on this time frame, I remain bearish until that swing low is swept. We'll skip the ES this time, as the price action is nearly identical to NQ. I don't want to repeat myself and waste your valuable time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at Mr. Bitcoin. I know many of you were bullish last week, but unfortunately, price dropped. On the weekly time frame, after sweeping liquidity, we saw a bearish reaction, which was expected. I'm still waiting for a deeper pullback into the weekly FVG, where I anticipate a strong move upward. Let's refine the idea on the daily chart. As I mentioned in the previous episode, I was running a hedge, long and short. Unfortunately, the short got stopped at break-even, and then price kept dropping. Yep, we've all been there. The long is still active from around 90,000 sats, I assume, but I already closed 50% of it in profit. I'll now show you my plan for both scenarios, depending on what happens next. These are not signals or financial advice, just my personal view and full transparency. I'm not here to guess prices. I'm here to share knowledge and experience. Always have a plan for both directions. If price drops or rises, the goal isn't to predict Bitcoin's destination. The real skill is adapting to the market and staying flexible. So on the daily chart, we haven't reached the daily FVG yet. There's a possibility that price could first hit the breaker block, then pull back deeper into the FVG, where I mark strong liquidity zones. I'm showing you 2 potential scenarios and how I plan to react once price gets to my levels. What confirms my short-term bearish bias is that price is currently in a premium zone of the daily range. But let the market do its thing and we'll adjust with it. What matters is having a solid plan, risk, and money management. Thanks again for tuning in to this week's episode. If you're watching these regularly, I'd love to hear your feedback. Drop a comment with your thoughts. What's your market outlook? Would you like me to cover any additional assets in this series? Both positive and constructive feedback are welcome. Stay safe, trade smart, and I wish you all a green week ahead. See you next Sunday for another episode of the Weekly Outlook. Traders salute.